Welcome to the American Market Alchemist podcast. Christina Rubefe brought us here. Very excited because I have a very, very special guest. It's Sylvain Perret from Objectif USA, Objective USA, if you prefer in English. And Sylvain is a good friend, a business buddy, I would say. We've been working together for about 4 years now, especially on the E2 visa candidates. And I'm very excited to have him as our first guest on this podcast. Sylvain, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very good. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right. No, real pleasure. I thought when I created this podcast, it's very new, but I was like, I want the first guest to be Sylvain because we've been working together for so long and on such good projects. And because you just are the expert in, helping French entrepreneurs come over to the US, set up their business, get their visa, do their business plan, find where to set up their business. But I'll let you introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about what you do.
Well, actually, you described it very well. We've been in the United States since 2010. We moved as a family. Actually, we moved a family of 5. We moved to the United States with an E2 visa. So we know the deal. We know.
Yeah, you've been there, done that.
Yeah, we've been there. So that's the first thing. And before moving to the United States, I used to work as an executive in the bank industry,
Right.
mostly working with companies for business loans. So
Okay, right.
I've been in business analysis for 4 years. And when we moved to the United States, we had several issues. There were several steps. We encountered several challenges. And then we decided at one time that we wanted to help people avoid these challenges. So we've been doing that. I would say that we actually did the very first one immediately after we arrived.
Okay, right.
Yeah, in 2010, we did our first case. That was only a business plan at this time.
Yeah.
But it was in 2010. We arrived in June 2010, and our first case was in 2010 as well. And since then, we've been working. We have worked on, I would say, 150 to 200 cases.
Okay, right.
Ranging from just hours of consulting for some customers to the full process of finding a business to buy, doing the due diligence, going the whole process of buying the business, working with CPA, lawyers, all these people involved. Up to the day they obtain their E2 visa, and we are at the closing table, and the business becomes theirs. So we've been doing that 4 years, and for 150 at least cases.
Yeah.
So what I say usually, what I usually say is that if you have to choose Objective USA, it's because we are competent, we have experience.
Yeah.
And we also have a high ethical level. We want to work in a high ethical condition.
Yeah.
That's how I would summarize that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And I'd say that's one of the big reasons that I really enjoy working with you is because I know that, when entrepreneurs are looking to go into the US, they kind of have these stars in their eyes and the American dream and all of that. And there are, a lot of businesses out there that are not ethical. And we've seen it happen. And I feel like that it is very important to, tell them, yes, that dream is possible, but it's work, and it's not because they do the paperwork that they're going to automatically get it. They have to really be well accompanied and be prepared and do the work. And sometimes they have these projects and you look at them and you say, sorry, but and you I think that's good that you have that ethic to say, I'm not going to take your money just because you're asking me to, because I see that your project is not going, might not have a good chance of succeeding. And I think there's a lot of people that wouldn't have that courage. They would say, hey, a client wants to give me money, I'm taking them. So
as you know, I wrote a book about that during COVID. There was 2 years 2 years, I would say slow.
Yeah.
So yeah, for everybody it was slow.
Yeah.
It was even
Yeah.
slower for us because no one was able to come. So
Yeah. Right.
that was very slow. But in actually, I think it's in the very first words of my book. It's don't be blinded, don't get blinded by your American dream.
Right. Yeah.
And the other thing that I say a lot, it's not easy, but it's doable, it's feasible. Yeah. So that's you said a lot of work. Definitely, that's a lot of work. And the other thing that I always say is the success is not getting the E2 visa. The success is not arriving in the United States. The success is still being in the United States after 3 years and making a living from the activity you started or the activity you purchased. And this is success. We've seen people arriving with stars in the eyes, as you just said, but leaving sometime 9 months later, 11 months later, with no money left, just because they made poor decisions.
Right, exactly. And so I think that, and you said you've been doing this for several years now, so you've seen a lot of good and bad decisions that people make in their businesses. And that kind of brings us to really the topic of our episode today, which is the 5, I guess, biggest mistakes that you have seen while working with French companies or entrepreneurs in the USA. What would you say? We'll start with the first biggest mistake that you've seen. What is it?
So I don't know if I ranked them by the worst to the less worst.
In no particular
I don't know
order.
if I ranked them, but I would say one of the biggest I see the most often. I would say the most often is that people who they did not adapt their offer, they did not adapt their product to the United States. They say, oh, American people, they will love it. They think that the market will be here with absolutely no basis behind this assumption. They think, I will bring that and people will buy it. Okay, it doesn't work that way. You definitely need to understand the market. You need to make sure that your product will hit a demand. If there's no demand, and sometimes that's just this thing. Sometimes people will tell me, "Oh, it will work because nobody is offering that in the United States." Yeah, there might be a reason. There might be a reason why nobody is offering that because there's no need. Just because there's no need. I usually say if you create a restaurant in a street where there are a lot of restaurants, it means that people are coming in this street to go to the restaurant. So each business will benefit from being a neighbor to another business. If you create, let's say, a French pastry in Washington, D.C., a French pastry shop in Washington, D.C., there's a lot of French pastry shop in Washington, D.C., because there's a huge market in Washington, D.C., because there's money. There are people coming from everywhere in the world. There are people who have traveled, so they know that French pastry is a thing. So, if you create a French pastry shop in Washington, D.C., you have good chances, if it's good, of course, if it's good. If
it's gotta be good.
It has to be good. But if it's good, good chances are that you will succeed. In some places, I would say, like in Florida, Okeechobee, places like that, I'm not that sure that they are really, really waiting for French pastry to open. I would most likely do donuts or pizza. That might be better.
They already know.
So the first thing would really be you have to adapt your product. You have to adapt your service. You have to make sure that people will use it. And another thing that we've been discussing several times together is it's amazing.
It's like amazing. I looked up amazing, awesome, synonyms. If you look up awesome on Google and you go to the website Urban Dictionary, urbandictionary.com, which is kind of a humorous dictionary of words. The definition of awesome is Americans' reaction to everything.
Yeah.
And amazing is the same thing. It just means they're basically just acknowledging that you said something, and they're too polite to say, I'm not sure that that's going to work. I don't,
Yeah, and sometimes even the same word, just the way they say it, like interesting. Just say the way you say interesting, it can mean two opposites. You say interesting in some way, that's interesting,
right,
which means, whoa, yeah, I'm not sure it will work. Yeah, it's interesting, which means it is interesting, actually.
Right.
So yeah, that's so the first thing, but I've seen a lot. I've seen people, I've heard people, it will work. American people will love that. I know American people. I've been there 2 times 1 week. So I know American people. I know them. And I'm sure it will work.
Right.
Well.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. So very, very, very good idea is really, you have to adapt your product or your service to the needs of the American market. And I feel like I've got clients, sometimes this message is hard to get into their head because they've been in their business for maybe 15, 20 years. They know what they're doing. They do know what they're doing, but for their home market. And when you go into another market, you really have to have kind of that beginner's mindset. You're bringing all your experience and all your knowledge, but you don't have the knowledge of that market. And you just kind of have to almost, be willing to start over.
I discussed with a client yesterday, and he told me something that I really liked. He told me that he felt for the first 3 months in his new business that he just bought, he felt like he was doing an internship.
Great.
Yeah, I'm just an intern right now. I'm just listening. I'm just learning everything because actually, even if I felt I knew everything, because he has a lawn care business. A lawn care business is basically cutting grass. You will say, hi, that's not that different. Grass is growing. In Florida, the grass is growing very fast. But that's the same kind of, but it's different. Customer doesn't work the same way.
Right.
Habits are not the same. So
Okay, and so what would be the second mistake that you've seen that can be very costly?
Maybe even more costly than the previous one, because your previous one, even if you don't react immediately, you can adapt in time. I would say after 3 months you realize, okay, it doesn't work. Let's do something else. Let's do things different. Okay, but communication, communication within the business, with the employees, communication with the customers, communication, I would say marketing, communication, all these things. You have to adapt your communication style to the United States. And for example, I was talking about within the business management. I have seen 2 times people arriving in the United States and losing all the employees of the business in the first 2 weeks.
Okay. Oh, wow.
So
like,
you buy
it was that bad.
You buy a business, you arrive, and the very first thing you do a meeting with the team, and at the end of the meeting, you can say, "Oh, I lost everybody." And just because the communication style was really abrupt, was way too direct. And the way you discuss with people, the way you interact with people, the way you sugarcoat things, the way you use sandwich style communication. Hey, I hope you're doing well. How is your day? Blah, 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 small words. Small talk. Then, listen, I've seen that. What do you think about it? Don't you think we could do that a little differently? And blah, blah, blah. But I would say less good information. And then at the end, but by the way, thank you for your good work, blah, blah, blah. Instead of, hey, you have to change that immediately or you will be fired.
This is not working. You can't do it this way, blah, blah. Right. And I think that also is something yeah, that I think you've seen this because you're really out there in the field with these managers when they're coming into
Yeah.
the American businesses. But I would say and I don't want to stereotype. I'm not going to say typically French style because there are very good French managers, but we do know that France, the French workplace tends to be much more sort of hierarchical.
Mm.
The manager, I've had managers that I've worked for here in France and where they would just like yell at the team, and it's a very unpleasant experience. You do that in the US, your employees are going to leave.
Yeah, the unemployment rate is 2% right now. So
Yeah,
if they don't feel happy, we have no you have no job contract. There's no contract.
right,
We are an at-will state in Florida, so
right.
there is
Yeah.
no contract at all.
Mm,
So if they want to leave, they leave, and
yeah.
sometimes they will leave for $1 more an hour for your
Mm,
competitor who is on the other side of the road.
yeah,
So you're not
exactly.
only losing your employee, but you're most likely losing your customers as well. So,
Right. Yeah.
so yeah, that's the relationship with
Mm,
employees is definitely a win-win.
yeah.
You need to be both sides need to be happy with their condition. You
Right.
need to
Yeah.
be happy with your employee, but your employees need to be happy with you.
Right.
So, and
Exactly.
that was for the employee, but that's the same for the customers.
Yeah.
I've seen people answering to customers' review. There's a lot of online
Mm,
reviews, Google
yeah.
things, Yelp. I've seen
Yeah.
people answering, and I remember calling a customer, telling him,
Yeah.
"Okay, you have to remove this answer
Yeah.
right
Yeah.
now, or you are killing your business." Yeah,
Yeah.
you were definitely wrong. What is explained in the
Right.
review, you are definitely wrong. It's clear you're wrong, even if
Right.
you're not wrong.
Even
Even
if
if
you're
you're
not
not
wrong,
wrong,
you say, I'm very sorry. I'm very
yeah,
sorry. My mistake.
exactly,
Right.
exactly. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Let me please come back. I will give you free stuff. And
Exactly.
yeah, you have to do that. And
Yeah.
oh, is your day better now? So that's exactly what he said. Do you
Yeah.
feel better now? Wow, wow. And that was the very first review. That was the very first review of the business. So they open
Mm.
this business, they get the first review, they did everything wrong, and then the guy answered, "Do you feel better now?" Then wow, 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 wow,
Yeah, right. And
wow. Okay,
I've seen that, because I know that in the US, like you said, the Google reviews, the Yelp reviews, of course that exists in France, but it's, I think, much
yeah,
stronger in the
definitely.
US, it has much more influence. And I've seen that, I go and look, let's say at this was an example, a hotel. Somebody left a review. This was in France. A client left a review saying, "Oh, the room was a lot smaller than I thought, and the temperature was not right." Basically, a bunch of complaints.
Yeah,
And the hotel owner responded, and he was just like, "Well, you're complaining about the room was too small, but you came with your bikes and you put your bikes in the room, so that took up a lot of place. And well, for the temperature, it was summer, so it's hot. That's not my fault." And I was like, "Oh my goodness, you cannot put that like." I'm just like, I don't understand it. But yeah, I definitely agree. Be nice, say you're sorry. Like
yeah,
that's kind of what you do, and that's the end of it. Yeah.
yeah. So
Okay.
that would be the second one.
Yeah. Second one. You mentioned contracts.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah.
interesting in a very different thing compared to France.
Yeah, that's more. This one is more from a legal point of view.
Yeah,
Not maybe the two first ones were related to behavior. This
yeah,
one is really. You have to understand that people coming from France, they are used that that the law is everywhere. In France,
right. Yeah.
you are protected as a customer. You are
Yeah.
over protected, in my
Well,
opinion, but
yeah,
you are
yeah,
protected as a customer. The customer, from a legal point of view in France, the customer is always right,
yeah.
and the law is here to protect him.
Mm.
If there's in France, there's a problem, we create a new law every
All
day. Every
right.
day, there's a new problem. Hey, let's create a new law.
Let's create some laws.
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
create some laws. So yeah,
Right.
that's funny. But in the United States, first you have to understand that every state might be different when it comes to business law. So
Mm.
something that I say today in Florida might not be true in California,
Right. Yeah.
and I choose California for a reason. Is
Yeah.
because California is certainly one of the states that protects the customer the most, and
Right. Yeah.
Florida is one of the states that protects the customer the least.
Yeah.
So yeah, you have to understand first that you really have to make sure you abide by the law in your state. But the other thing is that the law doesn't protect a lot in business matters. What you have to understand is that contracts are everywhere.
Yeah.
You are signing contracts all the time, and you have to understand the contracts you sign.
Yeah.
You have to understand that there is no such thing as, I don't know how to translate that. There's a word in France which is a clause léonine, which means that's a clause which is too much in favor for a part in a contract.
Yeah,
and actually the very fact that there's no US words for that means that it doesn't exist.
I feel it's a bit like, yes, there are certain laws, but much less than in France. And basically the approach in the US is like, hey, if you are okay for this and the other person is okay for this, then hey, then the government is not going to intervene unless it is something like, unless it's something quite serious.
It has to be lawful. I mean, it has to be legal. You cannot put something in a contract saying, hey, we sign a contract that we will sell this thing, which is completely prohibited in the US. You cannot put something like that in a contract.
Right.
But
no, of course.
as long as the clause is legal, and I've seen some clauses that are really surprising. But for example, let's take an example: the commercial lease. The commercial lease in France, it's called Bail 369. The commercial lease, you can put everything in a commercial lease. I've seen commercial leases that are 5 pages long. I've seen commercial leases that are 200 pages long. Guess what? Wow. The longest one, you really have to read it carefully before signing it.
Right. But maybe get a lawyer to read it too.
Yeah, clearly you want a lawyer to read it. But for example, I've seen clauses that are really interesting for the tenants. Something like, for example, I've seen a business that was on the first floor of a huge tower.
Right, yeah.
And the rent was based on the rate of occupancy of the tower. Meaning, if the tower has a 100% rate of occupancy, nothing is vacant, then the rent is due as a whole. You need to pay the whole rent. But let's say that there's only 50% of, because actually the business, the activity of the business of the first floor was really related to the occupancy of the building, because that was a cafe that was at the first floor of this building. And then if the rate of occupancy of the building was only 50%, then the tenant would pay only 50% of the lease. That's the kind of thing that is difficult to get in France, because it's difficult to put that in a contract that is that much regulated by the law. Right. But here, this kind of contract, they are not regulated by the law. So you need to understand that the law won't protect you. Yeah. The law, in business at least, the law won't protect you. What will protect you is the contract. And you clearly have to understand, to get help understanding them, because that's not only a matter of reading English, because there are some contracts even in French. I don't understand them.
I was going to say, I've read contracts in English and be like, I'm not sure what this exactly says. But
sometimes they use 18th century English from England with shall everywhere. When you see shall in a text, you know that's most likely legal terms. Shall do that, shall not do that.
Right.
Okay, we are legal terms.
Yeah, right. No. Yeah, definitely. Contract, read them and get someone to explain them to you, and that's very, very important. All right, so what would be the fourth mistake? We talked about the legal aspect, we talked about the interpersonal communication aspects. How about the money aspect?
Money aspect. So there's a saying that I like, which is, it takes money to make money.
I like that.
So you clearly need to have money to come to the United States, because nothing is free.
Nothing's free. Everything you're going to pay for,
and you're going to pay for everything. You're going to pay for your health.
Yeah,
Just be
a lot.
very, very, very careful if you have health issues, because the cost of health is really high in the United States.
Yeah,
But everything is expensive, so
yeah,
you really need to have money. And the other thing is that either if you come as an entrepreneur or as a business, as a company,
yeah,
we help entrepreneurs, I mean people, but we also help companies coming to the United
sure.
States.
Yeah.
You won't be able to have any loan in the United States until you have at least one good tax return, or at least two. If you're an individual, you will also need a good credit score. It takes time to get a good credit score.
Yeah.
So you won't get any help from the government.
Yeah.
Needless to say, you
we
won't
don't do that.
Yeah, we don't do that in the United States. So yeah. So you won't get any help from the government, but you won't get any loans. So if you need money, you might want to borrow money in France, like with BPI. If you're a company and you want to go to the United States, the BPI, which is, I think, Banque Publique d'Investissement, I think that's something like that. They have special credit lines for that. So you might want to go that way, but just be careful to have enough money, because it will take money to make money. You need to invest in your marketing. You need to provide a welcoming atmosphere to your customers. You need to and I've seen a lot of people. They were clearly underfunded. There was not enough money for sometimes you don't have enough money to your expectation to reach your goal, because I would like to do that. Okay, but you don't have money to do that.
Right. And they just underestimate.
I would like to rent a place in the Fifth Avenue in New York.
Right. Good luck. Yeah.
Wow, Broadway.
Okay.
Wow. Yeah. You don't want to do that. You can't do that.
Yeah. Right.
So
no, and I think it's especially if you're, coming from France, where, things do tend to be just, lower priced for a lot of things, because salaries are lower. I mean, they go together. But then also just in terms of business cost, I mean, in the US, it costs a lot of money to run a business in the US and to get set up. And like you said, every single thing that you want to do, you're going to have to pay a lot of money to do it, especially when you're setting up that business. So I always tell people, plan your budget and then add about 30%, if not more, to be safe.
I've seen people creating retail places, receiving quotes, and I told them this quote is completely unrealistic. So they receive, let's say, for the same location, they receive a quote with a budget of $100,000, and they receive another quote with $30,000. So it just doesn't work. That there's usually a price per square foot. So that price per square foot is at least something like $800 per square foot, or something like that. And then you receive a quote for a 1,000 square foot completely renovation, and you receive a quote with 30,000. Say, no, there's something wrong. There's something wrong. And then they choose this. It's really less expensive than the other one. Yeah, I understand that, but in my opinion, he won't deliver. He won't deliver.
Yeah, right.
And then, okay, they arrive at 30,000. Okay, it's not finished. You need to. Okay, I didn't. Okay, but we're not finished. So you need to give us money, or we won't be finishing.
Yeah, right. And then you're stuck, and you have no power in that negotiation. So,
and you can try to sue them. You will realize that the contract you signed was clearly there might be unexpected cost. And then you realize that you're screwed.
That you have, yeah, right,
Yeah,
exactly. So, yeah, read the contract and plan to spend a lot of money,
yeah,
budget for that
yeah.
accordingly. Okay. And the fifth mistake that you have seen very often in these kinds of projects?
Unfortunately, that's one of them. That's one of the mistakes that led to a lot of people going back to France or
Mm,
yeah, leaving the country. That's
okay.
it. When it's, as I said, we work for companies and we work for individuals.
Right,
When we
yeah.
work for individuals, most likely we are talking about families, and
Mm,
you have to
right,
have
yeah.
everybody on board. What I
Okay,
mean
yeah.
is that it has to be a family project, and at
Mm,
least, at the very least, a couple project.
mm, right,
Because if one of the people in the couple is 100% in the project and the other one
mm,
is 20% just okay, let's do it because he or she wants to do it.
right, yeah.
And then, so sometimes we have people, they move to the United States and they leave a very good job in France.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I would
It's hard.
say in this situation, unfortunately, it is more often
Mm,
the wife.
right,
Yeah,
yeah.
we have a guy who's married. That's
Mhm.
yeah, of course, that's not only, but
Sure.
it's really more
That's
often.
what the
Yeah, it's more often.
statistically, that's what it usually
Yeah,
is.
it's
Yeah.
usually is that. And then we have a guy who's willing to move to the United States. He has
Mm,
big projects,
right.
sometimes unrealistic ones. He has big projects, and then his wife has to leave a very good job,
Yeah.
family,
Mm,
friends, and
mhm.
she's not 100% in that.
Right.
If at the first issue, most likely I didn't want to come.
I didn't wanna come here
Yeah,
anyway. I was just doing this for you, and yeah. Yeah.
exactly,
We
exactly.
we had a case, like that. I won't give any details, to keep this totally anonymous, but it was what you just described, a couple. They didn't have any kids, I don't think. It was a couple. He was sent to the US for his company. His wife, like you said, had quite a good job here in France, left her job to go with him. Was unable to work. I'm not sure what visa they had, but anyway, she was unable to work. Um, and she said, hey, I'm in the US. I'm going to take advantage of this time. I've got time off to take English lessons. While I'm here, I can go out and practice, et cetera, et cetera. Great. We started off very exciting project, and it was just over the course of about the 4 or 5 months that we were working with her. I mean, we just saw the decline. And we would, okay, how was your day today? Didn't do anything.
Mm.
Okay, well, what are you going to do this evening? Nothing.
Yeah.
Okay, where are you going to go out? No, I don't know anybody. Like just really just like totally depressed. And at that point we said, let's stop the lessons, and I recommend that you go and look for some help, um, psychological help, or so, support for expatriation and this kind of thing, because it was clearly impacting her mental health. So yeah.
Yeah, you really have to be very cautious about that, and I've
Mm,
seen that too many times.
yeah,
Yeah, that's you are in a new country. If you don't have a job,
right.
if you don't have kids, that's even worse, because
Mm,
when you have kids, you go to school and you meet other
yeah.
parents.
Yeah,
But
exactly. You
if
have
you
something in common to
yeah
meet people with,
yeah
whereas
yeah
I
you,
think she
you
was just,
definitely need to meet people. You
yeah,
definitely need
yeah,
to meet people. So there are a lot of things to meet people, but
yeah,
you need to do it. But
right.
yeah, the main issue most of the time was really, I left this good job, I had my
Mm,
dream job, and I left it for you, I left it for your project, and
right.
sometimes it doesn't work that well at the beginning. So
Mm,
I left it for your project, which is not working, but that is
yeah.
not working. So wow, 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 where are going?
So, yeah.
I think when we talk about failure, I mean failure, people
Mm,
going back to France
yeah.
in less than 2 years. I
Right.
think this is the main reason that I've seen.
Okay. So,
Uh,
okay. So, yeah, it's really something to take into consideration. And
yeah,
perhaps I think that is underestimated. The importance of that point in a project is, I think, underestimated because, like you said, hey, it'll be okay. We'll see how it goes. It's the US. It's not totally different from France, etc. But in reality,
We,
it's
we refuse the case based on
mm,
that because we had meeting and we clearly
mm,
we usually work as a team with my wife,
sure,
so
yeah,
so we have both our sensibilities. We are different,
yeah,
and we lived our own
mm,
expatriation
yeah, yeah,
differently. We were both involved in our businesses. We worked a lot when
mm,
we arrived. We still work a lot,
yeah,
but we were both involved in the company. But we felt the thing differently. And
yeah,
when we have a family, when we are taking care of a family, I like to have her involved
mm,
in this part because she maybe has better. She receives this kind of
mm,
information better than me. She has a
yeah,
better. She has a better feeling. She
yeah,
feels the things more than me. I'm more
right,
in business. I'm more in the project, in the numbers,
right,
and
yeah,
sometimes I won't see that, but she
yeah,
will she will definitely see that. And
mm,
more than one time, she told me, you know what, I think we have an issue here, and this is this issue, and she's usually 100% right.
often right,
Yeah, she's
yeah,
right.
right,
She's right. She's
yeah,
always right,
right.
actually.
Daphne's always right, right.
Yeah, yeah, Daphne's
Yeah.
always right.
Okay, great. No, okay, so yeah, so if we just kind of recap, so the five mistakes that I noted here is mistake number one, not adapting your product or your service to US customers. Mistake number two is managing too abruptly or communicating too abruptly, whether it's with customers, your employees, etc. Not reading the contract or not understanding the contract. Don't skimp on lawyer fees. I would say that's a very good investment to make. Underestimating the costs and not having enough money for the project. And then the fifth mistake is not really taking into consideration the sort of family aspect of having everyone on board with such a big project. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that would be
All
that.
right.
That would be that.
Awesome. Great. Sylvain, thank you very much for being my first guest
I'm
on this
honored.
podcast.
I am
Yeah, and
honored.
no, I'm really happy about this. Thank you for sharing all of your wisdom. I know that all of that wisdom is about 35 minutes, but that's just years, a dozen or so years of wisdom and experience and all that distilled into a couple of minutes here. Where can people find you if they want to connect with you, follow you, learn more about how you can help them with their projects in the US?
So the first thing is our website, objectif-usa.com, objectif-usa.com. That would be the
Hmm.
first thing. We have a Facebook group,
Hmm.
which is
Yeah.
called, that's very, very original. We call that Objectif USA, le groupe.
Hey,
So
easy to
we are,
find.
yeah,
Cool.
we are so original. So, yeah, so Objectif USA, le groupe. I also, talk a lot on LinkedIn.
Mm,
Yeah, I post a lot on LinkedIn.
yeah.
I've been on LinkedIn for 11 years.
Okay,
So
right.
yeah. I actually quite when we arrived. So no, 11 years, but would be no, that's more than that. I think that's 13 years. I've been on LinkedIn for
Okay.
13 years,
Yeah. Yeah.
2011. So yeah,
And you're quite active on LinkedIn, and
yeah,
your posts on LinkedIn are always very instructional and very insightful because I feel like the posts that you're sharing are really like you're doing your work, you
mm,
see something interesting, you're like, hey, let me make a post out
yeah.
of this. So it's almost like, tips from Sylvan every day, daily
Mm.
tips from Sylvan on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I
uh
would
Very
just
useful.
add the book.
And though I
Yeah,
was gonna say,
yeah,
promote your book,
yeah.
please, because it's very good. It's very thorough,
Mm.
and I think I've read the book, and I feel like that for anyone who's maybe thinking about a project, an E2 visa project in the US, that's definitely a good resource to read and to sort of test out
Mm.
to see if do I go to the next step? Am I ready? Yeah.
Yeah, some people told me that they read it and they actually they canceled their project because they felt they were not ready.
Yeah.
Some other people told me that it made them think about their project, rethink it, modify it, and
Mm,
maybe preparing it more because they felt, yeah, maybe I didn't think about that. Maybe I didn't think about that. Or some people were quite ready. They're ready to, okay, I need to think about that as well. So it really depends. There's a lot of things for everybody, I would say.
Yeah, exactly. And I would say it's good to read a book that's, I don't know what the exact price is, 15 to 20 euros, I imagine. Very good investment to save you from going into a big project, which is not ready to go yet.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much, Sylvain. It's a real pleasure having you on, and I'll have you back on the 100th episode.
Yeah.
Celebrate that.
Yeah, that was my condition. So yeah, I would be glad to be the 100th
guest.
Guest.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nah, deal. All right, Sylvain. Thanks. Have a good day over there in the US.
You do the same. Thank you. Bye.